All right. So grab your handouts. We're going to talk about using all of those life skills. Now, I put a web link on life path mapping on here because, truth be told, it's at the very end. Life path mapping, like the last two pages. Um, it's the last page, front and back. Do you have life path mapping there? Yeah. Okay, good. Truth be told, this is something that I do all the time. It's easy for me to explain it, but I couldn't write it down. So I went on this website, and this is for life path mapping, like to plan your life. And you can go to their website. It's not for our exact purpose, but I was like, well, everything on there is what I would do. So I just, for full clarity, I didn't make this part up. But I'm going to tell you what I want to tell you. And we're recording what I want to tell you. Maybe someday I'll write it down. Most of you are on some level or another a psychic intuitive, a psychic medium, an empath. You get visions, or you have connections that are very natural to you that you don't appreciate to the level you should. Just like I was in my mid-20s before I realized that not everyone sees people's past lives or remembers their past lives. So it was, 2.5 decades before I learned that that's abnormal. And then my response was to shut it down. I'm like, oh, I'm weird. And I shut it down for a long time. Um, well, for like 7 years, totally shut it down because I was embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the only one who can do this? Ah. So each of you has native skills. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And because you've always had them, you probably think they're normal for everyone. No matter what skill you have, one thing that we'll all have in common is you see people's potential probably more than most people do. And this is part of life path mapping. If you're like a natural mentor or a teacher, or if people say, you see things in me I didn't even see in myself, or you help me to figure things out, then you are what I'm talking about. So when I see someone, I'm very empathic, I'm a little telepathic, I'm a little bit of a medium, and I see all their past lives and their souls and stuff. So it's a little easier for me. But I see their potential and I see where they're at. And I feel like my job working with people is to help them achieve their potential. And in your own natural way, you do the same. However, just because I see their potential doesn't mean they see their potential. So if I try to, like, no, you can do this, I know it's in you, the response I'll get is, you don't love me for the person I am. You only want me to be what you want me to be. You expect things of me that I can't give you. And then I feel like less than myself because you only love me for things like get a lot of anger and resentment. So when I worked with my mentors, when I realized, oh, not everyone sees this like cloud of potential above people's heads, only I am seeing that. That's why everyone's angry with me. I worked with mentors who are very good at mapping life paths and seeing all this stuff. Lowell was definitely one. And what I learned is what I'm seeing above them is like who they can be if they successfully navigate their life path. So I'm seeing who they are, and then like all of their capability, maybe 80 years down the road, 30 years down the road, not who they are now. You can only really relate to people at where they are now. And you can only interrelate with people at your lowest common denominator, working your way up to whatever is mutually comfortable. This is why people get divorced many times because One of them wants to meet up here and one of them wants to stay down there. And they're like, it's not compatible. We get angry. But whatever relationship you have with someone, you have to bring your vision of them down to where they're able to meet you. And if it's a student or a client or an employee or someone you're helping mentor, you can only help them raise up as they're raising up with your guidance and support. But you can't force them to be where they're not yet. That for me was a very important life lesson. Now, however, because I can see their potential, I was able to mentor a lot of people to be able to become far greater than they thought they were. I won huge awards with my work. There were multiple international conferences based on my work. My work was the source of origin for people coming from all over the world to learn how to improve stuff. And it would be with my team that I mentored. So it can be done, but you really have to pick and choose. And also, like, what relationship do you want to have with this person? With it, if they're your friend or your lover, you don't want to be their mentor. Then you're like, oh my God, I'm like everyone's parent. Ugh. You may have friends that, they're not gonna, they're in a karmic lesson that they refuse to exit. So they're never going to be above this point. So whenever I'm with this person, I kind of scale down to there and we have a great time. But then that puts me in a situation where I'm like, I never get to be with anyone where I'm just me. I can only be an aspect of me. And like that's one reason I love Kathy so much and Patty. I can just be me with them. And we've all been friends for years, and I value that. I have many people who say, "Ooh, I'm friends with Guru Bonita. I'm friends with the Enlightened One." I'm like, oh, they're not my friend. They're Enlightened Bonita's friend. They're not my friend. And for me, it's a little bit of a heartbreak as much as they're like having so much joy in it. So then it's my responsibility to say, what is it within me that someone comes to me with love and gratitude and like excitement that we're friends? And I'm like, oh, like that's not the right reaction. I'm bringing everyone's frequency down. So there's my karmic lesson in there of why don't I embrace enlightened Bonita? Like, because I also have Bonita goes out drinking Bonita. And I'm worried if I embrace one, I have to release the other. Are enlightened people allowed to go out drinking? Hit on guys? I'm like, to me, this is important. And I'm like, well, if it's important, then enlightened Bonita goes out drinking and hits on cute guys. Okay. So I'm not married. So as you looked at your previous lives, the past lives, you saw their life path and how they planned their life and how they lived their life are not necessarily super cohesive. What I can tell you, and this is so important for karmic understanding, is there are no grudges held after life. I once was in a life where I was grievously harmed by someone who went way off his life path onto a very dark way. And because instead of living his life path, he went off of it with like really dark intention. Not only did he harm a lot of people, but he messed up their life paths. He messed up their karmic lessons. He messed up their relationships, and some of them he killed. Or so my soul of that life took me to watch him when he reviewed when he died and reviewed his life path. It was so interesting because here's this arrogant, terrible man who just like harms everywhere. And then he dies and with no remorse. He goes up for the reunion and the reclamation. And as he's reviewing his life path, I watched as he became broken. He was like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? I did all this stuff. And look at, he saw the extending and extending and extending damage and harm and heartache. And he was like, I messed up so much because of my arrogance and my mean heart. Every single soul that he harmed came to him at that time and forgave him and embraced him and helped him with his healing, his reclamation of self. Now, some of those people were still alive, but it was the aspect of their soul that doesn't go in the body, that stays up there, that would go to him. And the ones who had died, like everyone forgave him and healed him. Then it was his choice of to receive the healing or to remain in anguish or return to being a jerk. You know, you can offer a gift. It's up to the individual if they receive it. He received it and went through a powerful healing and cleansing. But he also knew that he had created this huge karmic issue for himself that he would have to work towards to complete it. A great deal of good deed doing in order to like, but it was making up within himself. Everyone else was good. They were fine. All the issues are within himself. And what I learned is like ghosts are from a refusal to return to your soul. And purgatory is refusing to receive the love and the healing that is given to you. So the world of karma and like how we live our lives, it's not about did you do good, did you do bad? It's about learn your lessons, make your mistakes, and then return to love. Learn your lessons, make your mistakes, then return to love. That's what karma is about. This is why I love looking at like past lives and how they navigated their life path, because then you can look at this life. Like at a past, oh, I screwed that up. Oh, I screwed that up. Ooh, really messed that one up. Ooh, someone did bad by me and I didn't deserve that. Okay, so what's the next life? Like there's no real emotional impact because you're looking at someone else's life. So when you come and look at your life path, if you can sort of raise yourself up to that impartial perspective, the non-reactive perspective, then you can learn a great deal about this life path and what you're navigating and where you wish to go. Now, you may or may not ever, while you're alive, know the path you planned, but you can certainly know how to go forward with it and how to release unnecessary traumas you're carrying from the past. Think about it, that guy I mentioned, he messed everything up. And yet, as soon as he was dead, he was given the opportunity to release all trauma and return to love, which he chose to do. And then it was his choice to take responsibility and commit tremendous acts of good after his death because he felt like that was the right thing to do. He didn't have to do it. That was what he decided felt good for himself. And he then worked as like a guardian angel kind of guy, a guide, a mentor for a lot of people. And he made sure that um, everyone he was connected with in life, after life, he befriended and he became a good friend. So their souls became good friends and he helped them. If he had interrupted this lesson, he helped them with their path to complete a lesson. That was what he thought was the right thing to do. It was not required. All right. Because he did all that good stuff, he made a lot of good energy for himself. He really helped himself in a good way. He really gave a gravitas to this concept of positive karmic lesson. Now, when I talk about like the soul, keep in mind when I'm saying that we have the entire soul, like your entire soul, and then every one of your lives that are members of the collective of that soul. So he was one member of a soul, and he's working with different members of different souls. It wasn't the entire soul working with the entire soul. And when we're in life, like the soul of Patty's soul that's in her body is connected to her great soul, but there's an element of the specific Patty soul that's watching over her from the body. So you're not all of Patty's soul in Patty's body. That's connecting you to the great soul that you're one of a collective of. I'll need to start mapping this stuff. So when you look at your life, there are certain things that when you were a kid, you wanted to do or be. Now, keep in mind, we're all a little older. So when we were kids, a lot of the career choices or lifestyle choices either weren't invented yet, or because the internet wasn't invented yet, we didn't even know about. We had to go to the library and check out a book like a chump, you know. And these books were printed 20 years before, but they were our resource manuals. Uh, so it's not the specific thing you want. I'm going to be a patent attorney for technological advancement. Like, it's not that. It's the idea of I want to heal people, or I want to advance the mind, or I want to just enjoy my life, screw everyone else, or I love singing and dancing. I want to do something with singing and dancing, or I was born with advanced ADHD and I had to move all the time. Like, whichever was the predominant element when you were young, that is always significant. And yeah, so think about, and often our greatest gifts were the ones that our parents yelled at us about. Will you shut up and sit down? Stop singing, you sound terrible. What do you mean you want to be an astronaut, an adventurer? That's ridiculous. So when you go back to your childhood and you look at like what were your biggest dreams, or if you had visions of you as an adult doing things. And I'm not talking about like what people told you to dream about, the things that popped up in your mind all on its own accord. These things really let you know what your planned life path was meant to be, whether it was or not, because plenty of us are not on our life path. For me, when I was a child, I always had visions, and this was very specific. I'm standing on a stage, like Broadway style stage with a huge theater with balconies, and there's a light on me. I am speaking words that are not mine. And people in the audience are just so moved, and there's people crying. It means so much to them. In my mind, as a little girl, I thought I'm going to be a Broadway performer. I'm going to be a singer, actress, dancer. And I studied singing, dancing, acting. I did a lot of theater work all through my childhood. I was in like little TV shows, you know, on like local TV stations. I appeared in community theater. There was no doubt in my mind I was going to grow up to be a great Broadway star. And that's not what happened. Um, but what I'm doing is not that different. You know, I'm not a singer, actress, dancer, but I say words that are not mine. I channel the librarians of the Akashic Records, and the words that flow through me and the frequencies really hit people in a profound way. There wasn't an internet when I was a kid. There is an internet now. I don't have to go on a Broadway stage. So I'm not doing what I thought I would do, but what I'm doing is exactly the same as I saw for myself. In mapping your life path, feel welcome to fall back into the innocence of your youth and what just made you go, I'm going to, and it could be you're like, I'm going to swing in a hammock and read books and eat chocolates. There are lives where that's what you're supposed to do with your life. Maybe your last few lives were very intense, and this life is to relax and recharge, or maybe in this life, I need to learn a lot about financial management. And this life is all about like, ooh, didn't manage my finances well. Now I'm a professional accountant. I've got money saved and now I can lie in a hammock and eat chocolates. you know. So um so that's like the predominant, like, really think about when you were young. And then the other thing is look at the things that just call to you, or when you meet someone and you're like, oh my God, I feel like I'm supposed to meet this person. Now, if that person says, yeah, I'm not supposed to meet you, there's still a reason for it. It could be you had a relationship in a past life that they're not supposed to connect with in this, but you feel unrecognized. Or it could be it's like a one-way soul contract that meeting them, they will have great effect on you. They have something you need to learn or absorb or understand, but you have nothing for them. So that's like a one-way soul contract. And, there were many teachers, like people like me. There's a lot of one-way soul contracts to me. And people come up to me, they're like, Bonita, you're so important to me. And I'm like, I think I've seen this person before, but I love what I'm getting from them in the now. Now, I gotta say, I'm like terrible with out of placement recognition, so I can meet someone 100 times. But if I run into them in a place outside of how we normally meet, I need to give my brain time to go, oh, this is someone I eat lunch with every day. And now I'm meeting them in another place, on a holiday, and they happen to be on holiday also at the same place. So, like, I know I need to give my brain time. That's like a family trait. Our family reunions are hilarious. The first like 2 hours are everyone just trying to remember each other. I am serious. Exactly. 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 So when you are looking at this like idea of soul contracts, when you know you're exactly where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, doing what you're supposed to be, it is a unique feeling. And so if you look back on your life, every time you've had that, or when you meet someone and there's this profound, we're meant to meet. If you don't know why, then perhaps you're not meeting the way you're meant to meet. But if you do know why, then, you know, something happens that can affect your life in a major way. And as I said before, I think when you get just naturally so jealous at someone, then that's like your body trying to say, you see this, there's something you're supposed to be doing, somewhere you're supposed to be, somewhere you're supposed to think or feel about yourself that is triggered as a reminder by learning about someone else's experience. So, like for me, um, I'll learn that someone is teaching a class on something really cool, and I'll go, want to do that. Why do they get to do that? I want to do that. Why are they so successful with that? I want to do that. I'm like, I'm supposed to do that. And then I'm like, okay, so I'm no longer upset that they're doing it well. Now I want to talk with them and say, how are you doing it so well? And what usually happens, of course, is they're like, oh, I'm so jealous of the work you're doing. How are you doing it so well? And we have this great like back and forth, and we both come away the better for it. So when you get that instant like jealousy, you know, That's a like a something in your life path, some soul contract within you is calling out for recognition. So like anytime I'm jealous about someone, I'm like, yay, my life path is speaking to me. And I go and I explore it. Because, you're not naturally a jealous person. So jealousy is coming up for a reason.
Well, I can really identify with the things that you're saying in that. So for me, I have always been able to see the potential in people.
Mm-hmm.
And and I went into teaching and I hated it. 30 years, and it's the worst profession. And it's the worst profession because nobody really wants to learn. And I see the potential. And it's very frustrating. And the parents don't want it, the administration doesn't want it, the kids don't. It's like, so why do we call this education? Because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But then I retired from that and I became a mentor to the Washington Statistical Society. And I'm just amazed at how it's cycles. Like, I automatically make them at ease, and all this information comes to me, and I give it all out. But you made a comment, and I don't know who else made this comment. Oh, I'm taking this course with Christine McCormick, or something like that. Anyway, you made a comment that you have to learn to meet people where they are. Mm-hmm. I think that is an extremely difficult skill for me. Yes. Because I just see their potential. Mm-hmm. And I go, but this and this and this and no, and it's like I have literally been pushed away by so many people. Mm-hmm. Because I see the potential with people and want to go there. Right. And I'm very frustrated because someone else said, we may be all old souls, but we live in a world where the vast majority of people are young souls. Yes. And it's really frustrating. Yes. So I don't know where that path goes. I'm envious of the fact that I meet older souls now. And it's like, oh my God, you all have your shit. Okay, so you crack me up. Well, no one has their shit together. And the other thing I said it drives me nuts to see these amazing old souls that have like psychic abilities and empathic abilities and native skills and insights. And they're just constantly oppressed by younger, newer souls who are in early incarnations and they're the bullies. And most people on this planet are stupid and they don't care. They're just annoying. And then the few people who are evolved are just, they have poor self esteem and they're oppressed. My job is to help those people reclaim their self esteem and take over because we need you all to be the leaders of the planet, not not the ones who are like, oh, I'm on my 18th life and I'm very selfish. Like, so my family teases me. They're like, Mom, you're like the divine psychic lady who spreads wisdoms from multiple dimensions. I'm like, yeah. And they were like, what do you think of humanity? Yeah, it sucks. They're stupid. They don't care. But existed for so long, and humans have existed for so long. And no, Kathy, I'm going to stop you there. When I was young, there were 3.5 billion people on the planet.
In my lifetime, there's now 9 billion people on the planet. We've got too many people. And that is the issue. Now, I'm not condoning anything bad happen to people. I want good things to happen to everyone. But there's a lot of young souls on our planet, and they're running amok. But today's class is not about that. I don't want to get into the multidimensional politics of humanity's expansion and contraction. We're not about that today.
When are we going to be about that?
That's a whole different thing. That's, I don't know. I don't know. Because, yeah, we will do that, I promise. But I guarantee a whole lot of people are going to hate on me because that's a harsh, what? Why not? No, that will be a live stream and I'll have a panel of experts because no one wants to hear me going, oh, people suck. We've got too many people. We're like, oh, that Bonita, she's like the furthest thing from divine ever. I'm like, me, I'm not divine. The librarians are divine and they speak through me. And they're like, okay, that would be a no-win across the board. No, I'll get a panel together and we'll just have, yeah, and we'll have people who have great insight speak on the state of humanity today. Uh, but yes, but here's the thing. Every one of you here in this room, I know for a fact your self-esteem is not as full and robust as it could be. Because when we were all young, we're like, oh, this angel is telling me this. Why didn't you come in and wash up for dinner? I was playing with the fairies in the backyard, and or you're reading people's minds by accident, or their emotions are so big that you're going up to someone and commenting on what you read of their emotions when they're like not revealing to anyone else. Like we have all said and done things when we were young that got us into trouble, and we learn to shut it down and we learn to let society dictate what's appropriate for us. And you're like, I can't say anything. People will be mad at me. Oh no, like we shut ourselves down, shut ourselves down. And now I'm saying, let's map your life path. And you're like, I don't deserve a life path. I'm not living to my potential. I'm supposed to be 10 miles further on my life path, but I'm stuck over here. Honestly, it doesn't matter. No matter what life you live, you're gaining experience for your soul, and your soul will be happy. All your soul cares about is gaining experience. And each and every one of you has gained a ton of experience. So your soul is going to be happy. So therefore, you're not messing up your life. Your life is perfect. Your life is absolutely perfect. But there are things that you probably want to accomplish or things that your soul promised to you that hasn't come around yet. So let's take a look at this. Now, the first thing I said is look to when you were a kid and you were young and naive and your whole life was ahead of you. Your life path isn't necessarily a to-do list. It's not like going to the grocery store. Did I get this? Did I get this? It's not a checklist and it's not a business plan. Some people, they come to life merely to be happy or to have fun, or they come to life to work on several hanging karmic issues. And beyond that, it doesn't matter. They can do what they want. I have people all the time coming to me saying, well, the first 30 years of my life was miserable. It was just like one bad thing after another thing. And then after that, no, I mean, I'm enjoying my life and I'm doing what I want to do, but I don't feel like I have a purpose. So we'll look at their life path and I'll say, well, your next life is going to be actually a very big, powerful life, but you had a lot of hanging karma. You had to get rid of karmic lessons you had to wrap up. And that's why the early part of your life sucked, because as soon as you completed one lesson, there was another one, and all of them were just like, finish me, finish me, finish me. What they say, like when you do any task, the first 50% of the job is the first 90%, or the first 50% of your time goes to 90%, and 50% of your time goes to the last 10% of the task. Well, these people had the last hanging 5 or 10% that they didn't want to deal with. And so they had like 20 hardcore lessons hitting them one after another. And then they're done. They're now karma free. And their soul's like, yeah, do whatever you want. I don't care. So they get like a get out of jail free card and they can do what they want. A lot of people like that. And what's the first thing they say to me? I don't know my purpose. I feel useless. I'm like, you get a free life. You did all the work. Have fun. Study, explore. Here's what you're going to do in your next life. If you want, you can prep for that. Other than that, have a good time. They're like, great, okay. And they leave very happy. I'd say at least a quarter of the people whose life paths I read for them are people who they're doing what they're supposed to do and they just don't value it because they think it should be something greater or grander. Like, how am I healing the planet if I'm just having fun? I'm like, well, your next life you'll be healing, but right now there's nothing for you to heal. So, it's like your weekend break for the rest of your life. So, as I said, look to your childhood, look to things that have impacted you big, moments where you've had big epiphanies, or where you feel like you're like trying this, trying this, trying that, nothing fits, but is there a common theme to everything you're drawn to try? Look at what sort of temperament are you? Are you a teacher? Are you a healer? Are you an adventurer? Are you someone who thrives in structure or thrives on free form? These indicate a lot. Like for me, I'm definitely a teacher. I do not like healing people. I'll do it if you pay me a lot. Like if you go on my website to receive a healing from me, it's like twice as much money as to receive a reading from me. Because I'm like, if I'm going to heal someone, it better be more. I don't want to heal. If I'm going to brush off my healing, I'm going to give you a good healing. And if it's a good healing, I mean, I don't want people doing it just because for a lark, because I don't want to do it. I think I took healing off my website altogether because I'm like, I don't want to heal. I want to teach. I want to empower people to heal themselves. So I was only doing healing because I'm supposed to, right? I'm like, but if that's what everyone's telling me I'm supposed to do and I don't want to do it, it's not part of my life path.
But getting the message is healing too. I mean,
But I'm empowering people to take the message and heal themselves.
exactly.
Hmm. Exactly. I love telling people what to do, sending some good vibes along with it, and then walking away.
Let them do the work.
Exactly. But if you look at when I worked in kitchens for 40 years, I was the chef. I became the head chef. I wasn't, now there are people who I love being a line cook. It's so much fun. But I love being the one in charge of the kitchen. And then I got bored with that, went back to school, got my degrees in nutrition and food science, dietary management, and food service sanitation. And then I created programs to go into healthcare facilities and redefine their food service to be the same staff with less budget, creating all natural organic food that was nutritionally designed for this client base, be it hospice care, memory care, cancer, diabetes, whatever. And to be a highly effective system that long after I'm gone and many other people have come and gone, they're stable to management with half the budget of their previous frozen and canned. And I did that all over the world. And why was I good at it? Because I could go into a place, tell people what to do, give them the system, empower them, and walk away before I got bored. If I had to stay a place too long, I'd get bored. So that is my life path. Tell people what to do and then walk away. That's it. That is the whole point of me being here. So the librarians come through and they teach people how to do things, right? Then the librarians got mad at me. They're like, we're teaching them how to do it and they're not doing it. And I was like, well, because you're teaching them too much. You're like, do this, here's how you do it. Do that, here's how you do it. You need to like practice and practice and practice with them. They're like, why should we do that? You do that. I'm like, okay. So the new program coming up in the fall when I start with channeled messages from the librarians, I'm like, dudes, one lesson a month, not 18 lessons. One lesson a month, and then we have to work it all month. And they're like, oh, you humans are exhausting. But again, this is my life path. And my mom has told me since I was a kid, you're always telling people what to do. And I got in trouble for it. I'm like, I'm telling people what to do because I know better than the rest of you, because I could see all of their potential and everything. And I could see everyone's like life paths and where they're going to crash and burn or where they're going to like sync up and go forward like a wagon train. But I was the only one who saw it. So what I had to learn was how to work with them so that they could see it instead of being a busybody dictating to everyone and getting sent to my room. I had to learn to help people become empowered to see their potential and their path forward. People ask me, what is it that I do? You know, what's the point of the work I do? I say, I give people permission to love and value themselves because that's what it comes down to. It doesn't, nothing else matters without that as a ground zero. So if you look in your life to all the ways where you felt like you could have been truly loved and valued, and not like, I mean, sure, if I was 6 foot tall and had long red hair, I'd be loved and valued. But, you know, for who you are as a human being and what is natural with you. So it may not be that you're doing it wrong. It may be you're empowering the people around you too much. And that's actually a really big deal with walking your life path, making sure it's your life path and not their expectations of you path. That's a very big deal. So, um, in this little thing, they're little notes. Be honest with yourself. And that's not the harsh honesty. If you're truly honest with yourself, you'll find that core resonance of joy when you hit your truth. So the be honest with yourself where you're harsh is like you have to stop procrastinating on self-care. You know, you have to, on your list of priorities, are you even on it? Or are you there taking care of everyone else's priorities, but you're not acknowledging yourself? That's I see heads nodding. Yes.
It's
So,
common for women to do that. It's women, you're caregivers.
mhm.
For everybody else in the world, but not the person who's sad and bad as you.
Well, let's hope the current generation is flipping that.
I'm hoping so, yeah.
Yes. So be honest with yourself about yourself includes like all of the negative things that you're hiding from that hit in the core of your heart are really more surface things. And all of the things that are the most important are things that should fill you with joy. So when you're looking to yourself, when you feel filled with joy and self love, that's when you're truly being honest with yourself. And then all the things that you're like, realize that's just a crust that you need to just like brush off of yourself. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a few raw truths about me, the divine enlightened Bonita. I mean, I am divine and enlightened, but actually everyone's divine and enlightened. So, you know, we all are. Just some of us spend a little more time up there than here, so we get more accolades. But if you spend a little more time up there, you'll get the accolades too if you want to. Um, for me, that's still an issue, obviously. Like, I really have a hard time embracing that. especially because someday I'd really like to get like a boyfriend. And it's my experience, men don't like to date a woman that they think can read their minds. No matter how many times I say to them, but you men are simple. Everyone can read your mind. It's basic. That doesn't make them like me more. Exactly. So the men I'm most likely to date are men who don't believe in any of this. Men who believe in this find me very threatening. Or just a little cough. They find me very threatening, or they feel the need to like, I'm as powerful as you are, I'm more powerful, or they want to like utilize, like they want to use me as a tool for their purposes. So usually I avoid men in our spiritual realm because they rarely treat me with the level of respect that that I deserve. Or they want me to always be divine Bonita and they never want to drink beer with me. Um, and and I love beer. I used to work at the brick skiller. So be honest with yourself and and the areas where you feel like you're not good enough, usually those are areas where you're actually extraordinary, but you were told to oppress it when you were young. Yeah. And that's a hard one because in order to embrace and love that about yourself, you have to acknowledge that the people you love, who were supposed to help guide you to be your best self, were the ones who oppressed you. Again, they didn't know what they were doing. Like, these were just tired parents with a kid they didn't get, a weird kid they didn't get, and they just wanted you to be happy and normal. So they're like, no, don't do that. No, that's weird. That's crazy. No, you have to do this. They were probably just doing their best to support you to be a great kid. They didn't know what they were doing. It is okay to love your parents, love your siblings, admire and appreciate them, and still acknowledge that your greatest native skills were oppressed when you were young. And there's no like, now I have to go back and rescue myself. You can just say, oh, fine. Okay. So it's a box that's been sitting, like I opened it, closed it. I can open it again and let it out. You don't need to hold on to the trauma associated with that. I mean, if you want to, you can, but
So, do you, if you talk about opening the box again,
Mhm.
it's really only people who are much older souls who appreciate what's in the box.
Anyone who's a younger soul is not interested in any of this. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who beat us up when we were kids. All right. Younger souls don't care about this stuff. So, yes, only older souls. And we are the keepers of our Pandora's box. Like, what is Pandora's box anyway, but enlightenment and understanding? No, greed wasn't trapped in there. Greed already existed, but it was her recognition of it. That's what's really in the box. Her enlightenment and understanding, because most people don't like it when you look at them and you see them and you're like, I see you. I see you for who you are. They're like, oh, now I feel vulnerable. So they're there to tell you, shut it away, shut it away. Be the courageous Pandora and open up your boxes and let all of your understanding come out. Um, I used to get very upset when my mom would take me to this. Uh, there was a group that we went to every week when I was a kid, and there was this woman who channeled messages from angels, and almost everyone in the group was psychic, and a bunch of them could read auras. And I always get pissed off. I'm like, don't look at my aura. My aura. You're a bunch of old people. Don't look at my aura. They go, oh, you don't need to hide your aura. I'm like, I'm not hiding it. I just don't want you looking at it. But the truth is, what is an aura but just a further extension of body language? You know, so if I'm like, "Grr," you don't need to read my aura to know what's happening here. And when you see someone like wide open and laughing, you don't need to read their aura to know what's happening there. But all of this psychic stuff, all it is like reading body language taken out to a further extent. Their loud thoughts, their louder emotions, their dreams, their, the memories that are holding on to them. It's just body language and micro expressions taken a little further out. So, um, I want you to look back on every element in your life that made you feel really good and every moment that made you feel really bad. The things that made you feel really good, you may not have had the same priorities you have now. When I was a little kid, I felt really, really good when I wore my striped little suit and I had my little tiny patent purse. And I put rocks in my little purse. And when the mean boys came along, I threw rocks at them because my father taught me about self-care when I was a child. And there were a lot of bullying boys in my neighborhood. I wouldn't feel good about that now. If I threw rocks at someone, I'd probably get in trouble now. But, in the 70s, the 60s and 70s, no one would like take a boy seriously when he complained that the little girl in the little outfit with the little purse threw a rock at him. So look back on the things you felt really good about and really bad about. Some of the things you feel really bad about, it's a karmic lesson like that you need to make sure you completed that lesson. The time I made fun of a kid when I was 7 years old that made her cry. And I only did it because other kids were doing it and laughing. So I thought this was supposed to be funny. And then I saw she cried. I carried that with me for years. I did a regression to that moment, but the full moment, everything leading up to it. And after that, what I didn't carry with me was once I saw her crying, I realized we're being horrible. And I turned to all the other kids and I was like, we shouldn't do this. We're being mean. And I started yelling at them. And again, I was scrappy. I was like hitting kids and yelling at them. I befriended that girl and we remained friends for the rest of the school year. And then I think her family moved away or whatever. I didn't carry that part with me. I only carried the part that made me feel bad. So my lesson in there is I like to laugh. And if people are laughing, I like to join in. I'm not always appropriate. I have managed to embarrass myself a lot by being inappropriately funny in the room. Well, everyone laughed here when we said that. You're like, now I'm being sent to my room, or I have to apologize to people. Um, when I see someone is hurt, I like to champion them. For me, this is a truth. It was true when I was 7. It was true when someone abandoned a dog in front of my house. This is part of whom I am. I am a champion of those in need. It's important for me to embrace it and acknowledge it, but also not let it run me ragged. I can't champion everything. So I have to make sure I care for myself first. And then, like, I definitely need a break once that dog goes. It's wiped me out. But I'm so glad that this dog's now going to his good forever home. Really look at all your major experiences that stick with you. Learn your lesson and apply it for your life going forward and release anything from the past that's like, ugh. Look at the life lessons you have learned again and again and again. when you're in that toxic relationship and you're like, oh my God, I thought I was done with this. And yet this is the eighth person in a row. Like it ends up being the same. So, and the only common denominator is me. Well, what you might find is that you want everyone to embrace you for whom all of you are and just accept you. So you accept people for all of whom they are, which allows toxic people to come into your inner circle. So you maybe need to be a little more discerning on who gets into the inner circle. Which means the lesson is value myself enough to let people in only as much as they value me and help me to feel valued. That is a big lesson. So then you can look at all those toxic relationships and go, bye bye, or okay, now I understand the common denominator is me because I am just too dang nice and accepting. And I'm going to continue being too dang nice and accepting, but now with discernment of who gets in and speaking my truth, not just, oh, that's just so and so being so and so, but hey, so and so, I know you're being so and so, but you need to back up a little bit because that's not comfortable for me. And then they might try to fight with you. Well, are you saying that I'm like, no, I'm just saying it's not comfortable for me. Oh, so you don't want to be my friend now? Or like, well, I mean, if you're going to act that way, you make your own choice, whatever. You know, and you'll find if you start speaking your truth and letting people know this doesn't work for me, if they've been in a relationship with you for a long time, they're going to try to put it back to you. And really, the only response is, well, if that's how you really feel about me, then you will probably feel relieved that I'm saying we need more space. Value yourself. And when you look at your life path, many of the areas where you have felt like nothing is working for you will come down to you not valuing yourself or you not being valued by others. With this group, I don't think there will be much in the way of you weren't valuing others, but you expected them to value you. Like, you guys are a pretty sensitive, nurturing group. All right. So the other thing is you got to be super flexible. Your life path, again, you planned it and then erased your mind. So there is no like, oh, I'm not far enough along. But when you find your life path, things kind of go in a group for a while. And then you start hitting these walls right and left. Walls are a great redirection. Look to your life of times you went stalwart straight ahead through every single block, barricade, and barrier, only to learn I shouldn't have gone here. So allow your inner guidance system, your gut instinct, to help you determine like which is the best path. If you're going forward on the path that seems like the perfect path and you're just hitting a wall, maybe a little to your left or a little to your right, you're like, oh, I can go that way and it's clear. It might be just saying, hey, stop. So really like listen to your gut instinct and be aware when the path becomes like thorns and thickets in a swamp. And look back on your life on when it has it been clear and smooth and when has it been like climbing a cliff only to fall in a swamp just to be chased, but run from a rockfall avalanche. Like those moments in your life indicate you need to wrap up a karmic lesson and complete it so you can get out of that place safely, or you're not quite on your actual life path. Yes. Yes. Okay. Now, get supportive friends. get supportive friends, and do those great, like, what are those, the collages of, yeah, vision boards, or like map your life path, like you're actually on a road trip. I'm born in one corner, I die in the other corner, and then like it's going to be serpentine or up around. You might even go backwards a bit and back over. You can map this many times, and you'll find, like, after 5 times of mapping your life, there are certain things that you're like, oh, every single time I want to do this. You can map your emotional life path. You can map your goals for life path. You can map your financial life path. You can map your relationships with people life path. You know, every, when you map each of these and you look back on it, you're like, there are certain common elements or areas where they all overlap in a good way, areas where they all overlap in a bad way. And that really lets you know what's going forward. And most of all, value yourself, love yourself. In shamanic healing, in indigenous cultures all around the world, all through history, when someone comes with any kind of health issue, the shamanic healing looks at where in the soul is there, or their energy field is there, damaged, and they repair that, and then the person is repaired. Ho'oponopono. I thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, forgive me, I thank you, I love you. Repeating it over and over as a mantra, not just from you to the other person or the situation. You say it from them to you as well, from yourself to you, from the environment to you. It is a oneness mantra. We are all one together. We're all connected together. If in many cultures, like we live in a small village, if I wake up one morning rolled out on the wrong side of the bed, and I'm like, I hate everyone. And the whole village sends love and healing to me because we're so connected. What affects me affects all of you. So for anyone to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I thank you, I love you, or any equivalent of that, it is from an interconnectedness, you know, of reality, of us all being one together and healing together from all aspects, all sides of that. So when you look back on your life, anything you feel shame, remorse, embarrassment, anger at self, you can always practice the indigenous shamanic practice of just healing and releasing. Now, that is not like my dad's side of the family, the wasp healing, where you just drink martinis and are press. Same general concept, but very different. Oppression drives it in. Healing, releasing, forgiveness. Forgiveness is the final stage of releasing, and that wraps up a karmic lesson so you can move on because you're no longer impacted by it. All right. What time is it? I'm keeping you guys so far late. I'm so sorry. I knew this would be an intense program to wrap into one. All right. We're going to do a quick meditation, and then I promise I'll let you go. Are you guys ready? Yes, you can go to the bathroom first. And this will be, I promise, a quick one, like 10, 15 minutes.